Since 1972, International Street has been the centerpiece of Kings Island. For millions of visitors, this is the first step they take into this magical place, where beloved characters are waiting to greet them with wide smiles and big hugs. This is also a place where families gather to take that picture so that this moment can be frozen in time forever. In this segment, we're going to take a stroll down International Street, discover some history, and find out why this place is so special for many of us.
Two or three things that Coney Island did not have that were the wave of the future. Coney Island experimented in terms of when you got on the rides, how you paid. In the 40s and 50s, you paid cash. If you wanted to ride a coaster, you paid a quarter. Then we went to a universal ticket system, and then we went to a modified pay-one-price system where you got a string around the band, and you paid $5, and you got the band, and you could ride all day with that. Then when we opened Kings Island, it was obviously pay one price, you paid to get in. Now I got to tell you, Coney Island those days, it cost 50 or 75 cents to get in the park, and we're announcing this new theme park where it's going to cost $6 to get in the park. And I'll tell you, we had a real public relations nightmare in front of us because, number one, the world loved Coney Island. Cincinnati absolutely loved Coney Island. They loved the Island Queen. They loved the swimming pool. They loved Moonlight Gardens. Everybody grew up there. They fell in love there. You're going to tear all this down and get rid of it? You're crazy. And then you're going to build something up north and charge us $6 to get in. We really had, when we were under construction at Kings Island, we had as many tours as possible of people through there and press and so forth. But I'll tell you, you never knew how. I honestly think I knew. I thought it was a no-brainer trying to do this thing. But when you're putting up the money, as Taft Broadcasting did, it's not quite a no-brainer. It's a risk. It's a gamble. And I always admired them for that because even though we were all pretty sure of this thing, you never know until the people came in. Pay one price was a big deal. And we got over that public relations deal. And once we did, everybody loved pay one price because they paid this money and then they had the psychology as everything else is free all day. So it was a great concept. Well, we designed our entrance to be very, very low. So when you came up and bought your tickets, you didn't quite know what you were getting into. You didn't know what was on the other side of this and what you were going to see. And in spite of trying to advertise for this and tours and everything else, we had the people who came up in the beginning, they paid their money and they walked through there, and I'll tell you, it was just fun to stand there. Their jaws dropped. Because in spite of the fact they loved Coney Island wasn't in the same league with Kings Island. They looked down International Street, they saw that fountain, they saw the tower, and I knew we had a winner. I absolutely knew we had a winner because it's like the best movie you ever saw. It's word of mouth. You tell 15 people about this movie, and that's really what happened.
When we started planning Kings Island, Gary Wachs went out to California and he met with a fellow by the name of Bruce Bushman. And he was really the conceptual designer of particularly International Street. His father was the famous silent movie star Francis X. Bushman. Bruce Bushman came to Cincinnati and stayed here a while, worked on International Street for us. And what we wanted to do was create this boulevard with a lot of shops and retail area with this beautiful fountain.
Many lifelong relationships were made at this park, and one shining example of those relationships is the love between Walter Jr. Duff and Nancy Gunther.
I'm Walter Duff. I worked at Frontgate Hats and Souvenirs, and I started in 1978.
Hi, I'm Nancy Duff. I worked in the merchandise department also at Kings Island, and I worked in the Rivertown section of the park in the trading post.
The other thing we didn't have in Coney Island was a big merchandising department. We had a games department, but we didn't have a lot of merchandising. And I knew International Street was, shops. So I was, among other things, I was pretty heavily involved with United Appeal in the 60s. And one of the guys was one of my key guys who ran McAlpin's in Mount Washington. And I remembered him, and I said, God, we need a merchandiser. So I went up and I talked to this fellow. I said, how would you like to get in our business? And you can do all the shops on International Street.
The great thing I loved about working front gate shops were every day I had a great view of the International Eiffel Tower, and I got to see the air show every single day. So most people don't remember, but they had parachuters, they had the dog fights, they had hot air balloons. So about 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock, somewhere in that time range, every day I got to see the air show. International Street was very unique, I think, for the time, especially for Cincinnati and a few of the theme parks. International Street was themed with German shop, the Swiss shop, the French shop. Everything had souvenirs from around the world there. And also many souvenirs that were very specific to just Kings Island. The Eiffel Tower, I mean, I got tired of seeing the Eiffel Tower as far as on the shelves. There were millions of Eiffel Towers that we sold there. But International Street had great flavor, great themes to it. The restaurants and the shops were completely themed out. You really did think you were in another country.
Knew we wanted a massive fountain. I'd seen some beautiful fountains at the New York World's Fair. I had taken 1 million slides of them.
Well, the fountain was, yeah, absolutely there. That was the brainchild and pet project of a fellow by the name of Charlie Flatt, who loved water and was a former manager of the Coney Island Sunlight Pool. And Charlie worked very hard on that project, and we developed it. It was the longest fountain, certainly in the United States at that time. I believe it was 300 feet long and had 300 and some lights underneath it that changed with a computer program. So it was very unique, and it became and is today still one of the more beautiful spots within Kings Island. The Eiffel Tower, interestingly enough, was originally planned to be put at Coney Island, and it was put on hold. If you remember, at Coney Island there was a ride called the Lost River, and the Lost River was going to be torn down, and the Eiffel Tower was going to be put there. Gary Wachs and his family had met with the team from Intamin AG out of Zurich, Switzerland, who built towers of that nature, and had it ordered, basically ready to go. And then the idea of Kings Island came up, so it was put on hold. Well, that became the focal point of Kings Island as we built the street, designed the street, and the esplanade of International Street around that.
The tower was built in Graz, Austria. And they built that park over there, and then they pre-assembled sections of it and then took it apart, and they shipped it over here. And that tower went up, and they only had to re-grout 26 bolts in the entire tower. It was the Mercedes-Benz of Eiffel Towers. And it's hard to believe, but we built that tower, including these massive foundations, elevators, paint, lock, stock, and barrel for $1.4 million. Lord knows what that would cost today.
It is an icon in the area, and it became the meeting place for everybody at Kings Island. When families would break up, they would come back and say, we'll meet you at the Eiffel Tower at 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. So that's how the Eiffel Tower came into being.
At Coney Island, we did not have a strong live show program. We knew what we didn't have. We knew what was popular with the new theme parks. We knew what we had to get. So we went out and hired a guy named Jack Rouse. I hired Jack from the Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. And Jack and his friend Carmen De Leon, they were going to do the live shows for Kings Island. Carmen De Leon lasted a year and decided this carnival business is not for me, but Jack Rouse stayed on. And they did a marvelous job. And in fact, in the first year, we kind of ran out of money. We weren't able to do everything we wanted to do because we went over budget in some areas because it was all so new and it was very hard to predict.
In the early years of the theme park industry, parks largely differentiated themselves on their live entertainment. Arguably, we all had the same rides. So in those days, I was the head of opera and music theater at the conservatory, and hell, all my students needed summer employment, and why not Kings Island? So there were musical shows, comedy shows, dance shows, country and western, barbershop quartets, clown bands, train rides, melodramas, magicians, jugglers, mimes, and clowns. So the early years, probably, a couple hundred plus. aspiring young performers, many from CCM in Cincinnati, but many from Bloomington, University of Michigan, etc.
So we built an air structure. I don't know if you remember the old air structure by the Eiffel Tower. We couldn't build a big, massive theater as much as we wanted to. We couldn't build it in the early years. So we built this air structure with a revolving door to keep the air pressure in, and we'd have the live show kids in that air structure, and it was extremely popular. And again, all these people that came in that remembered Coney Island, they didn't know they were going to get live porpoise shows. We had a marvelous porpoise show. And they got all these shows for free. And I mean, it was such a big bang for the buck.
Saltwater Circus, very popular show at Kings Island. It was actually over on the south side of the park behind the Eiffel Tower, between Rivertown and the Carousel coming up to Coney Island Mall. There was an area there. And it was packed. It was full every show. It was really one of the few dolphin shows, certainly in the region, if not the only one. So again, like everything else in our industry, everything runs its course after a while, and you change it. And of course, with the Marine Mammal Act and other legislation, there was a lot of pressure on keeping dolphin particularly in captivity and working with them. So eventually we just eliminated that show and took the dolphin show out.
Over the year there's been a lot of famous Cincinnatians. I guess the most notable that everyone would recognize today would be Carmen Electra. At the time she went by Tara Patrick, and she was a dancer in our stage show It's Magic in 1990. So she's gone on to a level of fame. But she also had, going back to the 70s, Miss America Susan Perkins was a performer in 1978 at the park. You had Susan K. Johnson in 1987. She was Miss Ohio. She was here in the mid-80s, for a couple of years working in our stage shows at the International Showplace Theater. Nick Lachey, he was a performer here as well with the Barbershop Quartet in the early 90s. So you've had a lot of people like that have kind of come through. Then a lot of people that if you work in the industry or something, you may know who these people are. Whether they work at the Clear Channel, like Chuck Ingram was a guy that worked here. Janine Coyle from WGRR. So there's been a lot of people over the years that have worked at Kings Island have gone on to bigger and better things.
I tried to. I had hopes and dreams and wanted to move to either New York or Hollywood and try to start a career. I think whether you're a dancer or an actress or a musician working in entertainment, you have to follow your heart. You have to go with it. And I saved up my money from working here, which was a little bit, and got on a plane and flew to Los Angeles and just decided to go for it. And I really thank Kings Island so much for being a part of that, because even without the paycheck from working every week, I wouldn't have been able to go. So in so many ways, I'm really honored, and this is just, it's so cool. I'm trying not to cry because I don't want my makeup to run.
No other street in the world crosses this many international boundaries. We've uncovered a lot of hidden history behind this iconic street inside of Kings Island, and I hope we've uncovered a lot of memories for you.